I thought you were dead.
My death was greatly exaggerated.
Yes, I know, I'm late to the party again. And apparently, this time, I am so late that another paper on Nanotyrannus has already been published. Science really do move fast. Anyhow, let's take a look at the story of the Prince of the Hell Creek Formation. Nanotyrannus, or Dwarf King, is a genus of Tyrannosauroid from the Hell Creek Formation in late Cretaceous North America, around 68 to 66 million years ago. They are considered to be more basal than its cousins in the family Tyrannosauridae, like Gorgosaurus, Zuchangtyrannus, or Tyrannosaurus. Once thought to be just a juvenile T-Rex, but a recent study in 2025, published by Lindsay Zanno, a paleontologist of North Carolina Museum of Natural Science, along with James Napoli, a paleontologist at Stony Brook University, has turned this idea upside down. Nanotyrannus would have coexisted with Tyrannosaurus rex in the Hell Creek Formation 66 million years ago. They are more closely related to earlier, more basal Tyrannosauroids like Apalachiosaurus and Dryptosaurus than the more derived Tyrannosaurids like Tarbosaurus or Tyrannosaurus. Having a more slender body and longer legs, it could reach much higher speed, doubling that of the Tyrant King, and probably more suited to be a pursuit predator. They also probably were able to use their arms in combat or hunting, being comparatively much longer than those of their Tyrannosaurid contemporary. Nanotyrannus had serrated xiphidon teeth, which was not typical for Tyrannosaurs. They were compressed from side to side, thinner and more akin to the sharp, knife-like teeth of Giganotosaurus than the robust, banana-shaped teeth of T-Rex. There are currently two recognized species, N. lanensis and N. lethaeus. Lanensis was around 700 kg, and lethaeus could have exceeded a ton. They would have served as the agile, medium-sized carnivore, much like coyotes, foxes, and bobcats in the late Cretaceous. Nanotyrannus would have shared its habitat with Struthiomimus, Anzu, Edmontosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Triceratops, and of course, Tyrannosaurus rex. Their diet probably consisted of smaller games like Ornithomimosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, Anzu, and Leptoceratops. Large herbivores like Ankylosaurus, Triceratops, and Edmontosaurus likely could have defended itself from Nanotyrannus even as an older juvenile, but babies were still vulnerable. A skull was collected in 1942 by American paleontologist David Hushbrook Dunkel and described in 1946 by Charlie W. Gilmore, which have named some familiar dinosaurs you might have heard of, like Styracosaurus or Alamosaurus. Charles initially described it as a new Gorgosaurus species, Gorgosaurus lanensis, as he considered at the time the Hell Creek Formation was a part of the Lance Formation. This was later re-examined by Robert Baker, Michael Williams, and Philip Currie. They moved the species to its own genus, Nanotyrannus. The fossil was believed to represent a mature specimen of a Tyrannosauroid from the Hell Creek Formation, since the bones were fused. This idea was first challenged in 1965 by Soviet paleontologist Anatoly Konstantinovich Rodezhensky. He suggested that the holotype for Nanotyrannus could have represented a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex. Vertebrate paleontologist Thomas Carr, whose work primarily focused on Tyrannosauroid, later further analyzed the specimen in 1999 and indicated that it was not fully grown, thus establishing the idea that Nanotyrannus was a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex. Later, a discovery of a juvenile tyrannosaur in 2001, nicknamed Jane, suggested to belong to the same genus, prompted a conference about Tyrannosaur, and more specifically on the validity of the genus in 2005. Many paleontologists that previously supported Nanotyrannus, including the people that name it, Curie and Williams, had concluded that it was not a valid genus. Despite this, Peter Larson still continued to support the idea that Nanotyrannus being a close but separate species. But everything was changed with the discovery in 2006 of the dueling dinosaurs. First reported in 2011, it featured a nearly complete theropod next to a ceratopsid. These were identified by Baker and Larson as the same species as Nanotyrannus. Further research to distinct the specimen from T-Rex proved challenging because it was private property. That was until 2020, when the landowners got the ownership of the fossil and sold it to North Carolina Museum of Natural Science. Here, Lindsay Zanno and her colleague James Napoli studied it tirelessly and published in 2025 a paper that revalidated Nanotyrannus, proving that the specimen was in fact fully mature when it died. We did not want to contribute to fueling the fire on this debate. We wanted to shut down the debate. We decided to make sure that we tested this question from every angle, said Lindsay Zanno. This slam dunk of a paper was praised by the paleontologist community, saying it could finally settle the decade-long question. Paleontologist Lawrence Whitmer from Ohio University said, "The outcome of their careful study is clear and about as definitive as we can get in paleontology. Nanotyrannus is real." In this study, they pointed out many red flags for the juvenile T-Rex hypothesis, such as the length of the front limbs of the supposed juvenile being somehow larger than those of an adult rex. "There's no way that during growth these arms were going to shrink," said James. Furthermore, the specimen also had more teeth in its jaw, comparatively longer legs, and shorter tail. A CT scan showed that its respiratory system differs from that of T-Rex, having an extra sinus. These were evidence that Nanotyrannus wasn't planning to morph into a hulking giant anytime soon. Cutting open its bones, its growth ring also revealed that the specimen was about 20 years old, so not exactly a juvenile. "There's no possible way to scientifically defend calling this a T-Rex," said James. After concluding that the specimen from the dueling dinosaurs was in fact a separate species, they took some time looking through the collection of tyrannosaurs from the US and Canada to Asia. They identified a few to be from Nanotyrannus, which also included Jane, the specimen that sparked the conference that invalidated itself in 2005. During this process, they also described a new species of Nanotyrannus, Anlathaeus, which was larger than N. lanensis. This study by Lindsay and James surprised everyone in the paleontology community, including myself, since most were subscribed to the idea that Nanotyrannus being an agile, much more lightweight juvenile T-Rex. But this reminded me the beauty of science, that our seemingly rock-solid established notions can be proven wrong at any moment by hard-working peers. This has also sparked a lot of new interesting questions on the growth cycle of theropods, since a lot of it were based on Nanotyrannus being a juvenile. So where do they sit on the food chain? We don't know yet, but I am very excited nonetheless. And once again, massive credits to the amazing Lindsay Zanno and James Napoli for this incredible study. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like to show support and follow for more educational videos on paleontology. Lastly, feel free to comment what you want me to cover next. See you all later.